Chapter 1, A Denomination in Peril. Open quote. No, there is plenty of wrong with Negroes. They have no society. They are robots, automatons, no minds of their own. I hate to say that about us, but it's the truth. Close quote. Malcolm X attributed, "What can be said about the Bantu that hasn't been said 1,000 times before? The Bantu have been portrayed as barbaric, savage, only 3/5 of a man. They have endured hardships and traumas that few can even begin to imagine. From the 1600s to the turn of the 19th century, they experienced formalized slavery, apartheid, and segregation, all of which dehumanized them to the level of domesticated animals. The Bantu went from owning vast lands on their own continent to paying rent for small pieces of real estate. If anything can be concluded about the Bantu man, it is that he now exists as a mere shadow, not of himself, but of his former physical and mental masters. His thoughts are neither his own nor those of his brethren. His actions serve neither him nor his family, and his resources contribute neither to his development nor to that of his community. He has, in fact, become his own worst enemy, as well as an enemy to those around him. This truth is self-evident, and it shall be proven within the contents of this book. On July 18, 2016, I discovered that I was going to be a father. The joy and gratitude that filled my heart were beyond measure. All I could think about was this fragile little life that my Creator had entrusted to us. I imagined how incredible it would be to become a father. My tone changed, my walk changed, and even the way I carried myself transformed as I tried to embody what I believed a great father should be. It was truly life-changing. I had never been in this position before, but I knew I had to be the best version of myself to ensure that my daughter grows up to be the best human being she can be. Expectation meets reality. As the months passed and the due date approached, my joy and gratitude slowly turned into fear and worry. The more I witnessed the gruesome things happening to children around me, the more I dreaded the future my child would grow up in. The rampant rape, murders, abductions, and child exploitation in this world filled my mind with deep regret for bringing a child into it. I felt as if I had done something terribly wrong, something that would expose an innocent soul to pain and suffering, all because of my selfish desire to be a parent. Worse still, there would be times when I would be powerless to protect her. Anxiety and depression set in. What made matters worse was the reality of the Bantu men and families around me. Bantu males have the highest probability of ending up in prison or dead before reaching middle age. They have the highest arrest rates. Conviction rates for murder are more prevalent among Bantu males than among men of any other group. Bantu families tend to belong to the lowest income group in almost every country they reside in. This sounds like a conspiracy, some might say, but it is an unfortunate reality. I began asking myself, who are the victims of the Bantu man's crimes? Who has he been killing, raping, and assaulting? Then I realized over 80% of his victims are his own people. Yet, despite this, he continues to blame outsiders for his misfortunes while directing his anger toward his own family and community. Why has the Bantu man become so violent, so uncaring toward his own people? Why does he kill his own brothers, rape his own sisters, and beat his own parents? Why is his continent the most impoverished in the world, despite Africa possessing more minerals and natural resources than all other continents combined? Why does he consistently find himself at the lowest socioeconomic level in almost every multiracial society he inhabits? As I pondered these questions, I began to doubt myself as a parent. I realized that of all the people the Bantu man has hurt, and continues to hurt, he has hurt himself the most. He has been shattered into 9 pieces. He has become a danger, not only to those he loves, but also to himself. And if he cannot be trusted to care for himself, How can he be trusted to care for those entrusted to him? The unseen patterns. They say everything in life follows a pattern. And if you look closely enough, you will see that pattern unfolding, whether for good or for bad. When I examined the Bantu man, I began to see a pattern of behavior that led to his self-destruction. I also noticed a pattern of thought and belief that continuously reinforced this destructive behavior. But while this realization seemed enlightening, it still left me unsatisfied. How can someone hold onto thoughts and beliefs that ultimately lead to his own downfall? How can I knowingly drink gasoline when oil is fatal to my body? Worse still, how can I want my own children to drink the same poison? Open quote. Nobody can turn you into a slave unless you allow them. Nobody can make you afraid of anything unless you allow them. Nobody can tell you to do something wrong unless you allow them. God never created you to be a slave. Man did. God never created division or set up any borders between brothers. Man did. God never told you hurt or kill another. Man did. So why is man your God and not the creator? Close quote. Susie Kassem, rise up and salute the sun. The writings of Susie Kassem. The answers to these questions were obvious, yet difficult to accept. Imagine you are a baker making bread. You want your bread to be round, so you purchase a round pan to shape it accordingly. At first, all your bread comes out perfectly round, just as intended, and you are satisfied. But one day, your partner, while washing the dishes, accidentally drops the pan, denting its bottom. Without informing you, they place it back where it belongs. The next time you bake, unaware of the dent, you expect to produce the same round bread. But can the bread come out as intended if the mold is damaged? It is self-evident that every loaf from the dented pan will bear that flaw. If you wish to restore the bread to its original shape, you must first fix the pan. This analogy mirrors the Bantu man and the belief system that shapes his self-perception and that of his children. The belief system is the pan, while the bread it produces represents his self-image, thoughts, and behaviors, values he lives by and passes down. When we observe the self-destructive nature of the Bantu man, it becomes clear that his belief system, the foundation of his identity, has been dented. As a result, the thoughts and actions produced from this flawed system reflect its damage, just as the dented pan produces flawed bread. No longer capable of fostering a strong and empowered Bantu man, these distorted beliefs and behaviors are inevitably passed down to his children. Herein lies the greatest problem. The Bantu man believes this belief system is good for him. He truly thinks that the way he lives is the best way to live, that there is no alternative beyond self-destruction and harm to those he loves. And when others attempt to show him that these were never his original beliefs, he scorns them, even going so far as to attack or kill them. A belief system defines an individual's self-image, and the self-destructive ideology has taken such deep root in the Bantu man that he cannot envision himself without it. It has become a mirror, an unshakable reflection of who he believes he is. He can no longer imagine a different version of himself. His soul has been cast aside in favor of these destructive beliefs. I believe he now stands on the edge of extinction, and no one can save him or his family except himself. Meanwhile, those around him are taking full advantage of this condition. Political and social groups manipulate his misery and internal conflict to garner votes and maintain power. The media continuously portrays him as vulnerable and victimized, reinforcing the illusion that they are his saviors. This narrative drives him deeper into self-pity and self-loathing. For, as we shall see, no man wishes to perceive himself as a helpless victim of circumstance. Feeling powerless over his own life, he seeks an outlet for his frustration, someone to blame for his suffering. This anger is often directed at members of other groups. At first, the blame was placed solely on Caucasians, but as we shall see, It has now extended to Asians as well. Intentions of the book. This book is neither about condoning nor condemning. It is about judgment. The concept of judgment is often misunderstood in our world. Yet no one can live a progressive life without the ability to judge what is beneficial and what is harmful. Etymologically, the word judge means to examine, appraise, make a diagnosis, to decide, think, or suppose. Judgment is the ability to differentiate. It is essential for survival. If you cannot distinguish between what sustains life and what leads to destruction, your lifespan will likely be short. My parents always told me to be a good judge of character, to discern between true friends and those who merely seek to use me. This book applies that same principle. It is about examining, diagnosing, and differentiating between what fosters growth and what is destructive to our true nature. That is what true judgment is. True judgment does not conclude that Caucasians are inherently evil, that the Bantu are criminals, or that Asians are compulsive gamblers. It does not aim to declare anyone good or bad. That role belongs to our Creator. Instead, true judgment evaluates the beliefs and behaviors that bring harm to ourselves, our communities, and the world. It asks, which beliefs as cultural groups do we hold that are no longer beneficial and are, in fact, destructive to our lives, our loved ones, and the planet? What behaviors do we exhibit that harm other groups, or that other groups used to harm us? How can we, as different cultural groups, move forward to create a future where we work together to achieve greater heights? One example we will discuss is the harmful practice of child marriages. In many African states, communities still continue to allow, and even encourage, older adult males to marry young girls who have just reached puberty. Some of these girls are as young as 12 years of age, having only just begun menstruating. These children are given away by their parents in exchange for a dowry, which was traditionally paid in cattle, but now often includes money. The girl is taken by the older man to be his wife, bear his children, and manage his household. While other children play and experience childhood, she is forced into adulthood at a young age. Imagine the shock of this young child when night falls and the old man expects to bed her. The permanent trauma imprinted on her will haunt her for the rest of her life, all while she carries and raises his child. When she turns to her family for help, they tell her she must obey her husband. That is her duty. Their justification to outsiders is that this is an ancient practice that helps alleviate poverty at home. The old man will provide for the girl, and in return, the family receives money or cattle to support their other 9 children. Helpless, the little girl resigns herself to surrendering her dreams, ambitions, and life to this man. She begins to believe this is how the world works, especially after her mother tells her she endured the same experience and is still alive and well. The young girl will never finish school, find work, or pursue any aspirations she might have had. Her life, as she knew it, is over. Regardless of any past benefits this practice may have had, we must ask, is it still beneficial today? To answer that, we must first establish our goals. Suppose our objective is to build a society where our daughters grow into great individuals who pursue their own dreams and aspirations. In that case, we must evaluate how such a ritual affects that goal. We want them to become doctors, astronauts, artists, musicians, influential politicians, business owners, and philanthropists, individuals who uplift their communities. To fairly assess this tradition, we must ask critical questions. How will a young girl grow up to be inspiring to others when she hasn't been given the opportunity to explore her skills, wants, goals, and dreams in life? Would our women be free to follow their hearts and dreams if they are conditioned to be obedient and never question authority from a very young age? Would our little girls grow up to be loving, caring, and self-confident women when their innocence and purity has been forcefully stolen from them? How can they pursue their passions when they are forced, under threat of violence, to devote all their time to household duties? Even from just these questions, it is evident that this practice does not support our goal. Instead, it creates women who are forced to abandon their dreams out of fear, sold off to pay for the lifestyles of their parents. From a judgmental standpoint, we can conclude that this practice is not beneficial and is, in fact, destructive to our community's progress. This is the critical approach we will apply throughout this book when evaluating practices, beliefs, and customs. We are not arguing whether something or someone is inherently good or evil, right or wrong. We are simply asking whether it aligns with our objectives. This method of judgment has been used throughout history by various nations to determine whether their way of life was conducive to progress. Isolated nations, in particular, tend to stagnate, clinging to outdated customs and social structures that hinder mental, spiritual, and technological advancement. In contrast, nations that embrace change and exploration often thrive. Historically, isolated societies have been forced to reevaluate their traditions only after suffering defeat or subjugation at the hands of more open and progressive civilizations. Those that critically assessed their customs and social structures after defeat rose to become economic and technological powerhouses. Those that resisted change continued to spiral deeper into poverty and misery, replacing self-reflection with self-pity and blame. It is often said that the quality of our lives depends on the quality of the questions we ask ourselves. Deceiving ourselves will not lead to a better life, nor will adopting a victim mentality. If we truly wish to shape our future, we must reframe our past. Instead of thinking, "that thing happened to me," we must ask ourselves the right questions until we conclude, "that thing happened for me." A powerful example of this is China. After its defeat in the Opium Wars against Britain, China examined its customs, social structures, and policies, ultimately transforming itself into the second largest economy in the world today. Before these wars, China, like much of Africa, was a closed society, engaging little with the outside world. This historical transformation will be explored further in a later chapter. End of Chapter 1.